Welcome, Panther Nation and football fans, to another edition of Growlin and Prowlin. It's your boy, Mr. Cee Low, coming back at you, talking all things Carolina Panthers, from the preseason to the regular season, the postseason to the Super Bowl, from the offseason to the draft, and currently the OTAs. Let the growling begin. What's going on, everybody? Glad to be back at you again for another edition of this great show that's slowly but surely growing. Thank you all for being out there. We had some really good feedback on Facebook this week, and of course our polls are actually doing much better than they've done previously, but it's in early stages of the show growing. But I'm so grateful that so many of you are participating. So much so that we have another poll up tonight. How many games do we think our Carolina Panthers are going to win in 2023? Which is also the subject of tonight's video. But before we get into that, let's get into what we need to do. Please go to our Facebook page. It's called Growlin and Pounding, but it's going to be changed, guys. It's going to be Growlin and Prowlin. Just got to go through that 60 days. And check out the poll. Please participate in that. And also like and friend the channel. And if you got any type of input that you can give us to make the show better, please do so. Also, go to my personal Instagram page at Mr. Cee Low on Instagram, and do us a favor and check out the reels, and also you can be caught up on what other shows I will be involved in. There's actually 2 more shows that we will be starting up very soon, and definitely keep a close eye on what I'm going to be doing, and so you can stay up on what Mr. Cee Low's got going. We also, the Bryce Young jersey is for sale. It's actually been purchased, and we're getting the white one first, home jersey. I know you guys are disappointed, but the first 100 subscribers to our channel, we will be putting your names in a Carolina Panther hat or helmet, and we will draw to see who will win this very new jersey. It will hang back here until we get the jersey, and I will hang it as soon as we receive it. But without further ado, let's get into the monologue of this evening, which is the Carolina Panthers schedule for 2023. It's been released for about nearly a week now, and it looks a little something like this. And I will go through how I think the Panthers will fare in 2023. And of course, this goes along with the poll that we have on our Facebook. And please feel free to answer the questions and so on and so forth. Of course, you see, in week 1, we will be taking on the Atlanta Falcons. We will be in Atlanta, which is not far from my home. So, not sure if I'll be able to make that, but I'm going to try, because as a hardcore Carolina Panther fan, I'm nothing worse than watching those Falcon fans squirm after a victory, which has been few and far between lately. Then we got week 2, the Saints. Week 3, we're at Seattle. Seems like we just played them, was it last year, year before last in Seattle? We've got Minnesota. Then we go to Detroit. It was a great game last year, not for the Lions, but for us. Then we got the Dolphins, and Miami again. They need to come to us. Goodness. Then we've got the matchup that I'm looking forward to in week 8 after our 7 bye. We have C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans, and then we have in week 9 Anthony Richardson will be here. Well, it's ironic, these two teams. C.J. will be here, and Anthony Richardson will be here as well. So the Panther fans will get a look at the 2 quarterbacks that we initially passed on in this year's draft. Then we face off with Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. That will be interesting. We get to see DJ Moore and his new team. Gosh, I love that guy. I haven't said enough about how much I really love DJ Moore and how much that that DJ Moore trade for the first pick was really painful. The Christian McCaffrey trade was very painful to me as well, and I'm trying not to touch that, but if you guys request me to do a video on how I felt about the McCaffrey deal, I will do it. Excuse me. And then we've got the Tennessee Titans, Malik Willis, who so many people have speculated in Tennessee that they're moving on from this guy after one season. I mean, which is unreal because it's a lot like us when we reached for Matt Corral last year and he hasn't been given a chance. But then we got week 13. We go to Tampa Bay, one of our 2 meetings with them, and then of course we finish up the 2-game matchup with the New Orleans Saints. We go to the Caesars Superdome, which is always a tough place to play at. Then we've got the Falcons here in Charlotte at home, and then we've got the Packers. The new look Packers, I might say, being that Jordan Love is now the quarterback and it's not, as Stephen A. Smith would say, that bad man, Aaron Rodgers. And then we got the Trevor Lawrence and the new look Jacksonville Jaguars, based on what we saw last year. You know, not many changes made on that Jacksonville team, but looking at what they've become, this could be the battle of the expansion teams again. Jacksonville is going to be really tough, but I'll go down to each game. And then, of course, we close the season yet again with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, except they're in our building. So let's go back up and let's take the schedule bit by bit and see what we come up with, shall we? The Atlanta Falcons. My gut would tell me that the Panthers are due for a win in Atlanta. But I could go back to the 15-1 season, and the only loss the Carolina Panthers had was in Atlanta. For some reason, the Panthers can never pull a sweep. We've never been able to pull a sweep. It's just, we could be that good. We still can't sweep the Falcons. We cannot sweep. And it generally comes down to a win in Mercedes-Benz Stadium or in the old days, Georgia Dome. And we still haven't been able to do that. We could get a win in the Georgia Dome and then turn around and foil it up in Charlotte. So I'm gonna go against the grain, even though that Atlanta defense has just done an overhaul. I mean, talking about just spending money left and right on, you've just seen so much. Whether it's adding, they got rid of Casey Hayward and added my guy from Detroit. And they even added the guy from Cincinnati. I'm trying to remember. Goodness, I'm losing my memory right now. Because we got Von Bell, and it was a shock when I was looking this up. And it was just like, it's like, really? They got this guy? And it was just, really an overhaul that I really see, especially when they drafted... I'm just tapping it up. Jesse Bates. I don't know why I didn't remember this guy's name. I mean, it was like I was drawing a blank. But yeah, Jesse Bates is going to be something that the Falcons have not had at their safety position in a long time. Now, people are going to say Jesse Bates was overrated and so on and so on. I certainly disagree. I thought Cincinnati should have signed him. Because to me, you can never get a guy that knows what he's doing back there at safety at a cheap price. This is just and I think Atlanta's going to benefit from it. With the exception, you're talking about, you've got Terrell at one corner, and your move with Jeff Okudah was, I think it was an okay move. I think Jeff Okudah just had a bad rap in Detroit. Detroit was just so good offensively that it was like, really? You're asking this defense to do this and that? But really what it was, Detroit's defense was so bad that the offense had to play from behind, and they just got so good at it. And it was just a move in the right direction. I think it was a really good move for them. But, we're not talking about Detroit. We'll get to them in a moment. But I thought the Jeff Okudah move, along with Jesse Bates, was just a step in the right direction for the Atlanta Falcons. And then, of course, they draft Bijan Robinson. That was just when I saw that, I was like, this team is just going to be a control the clock type of team. They did that pretty much last year, but I think they did it. They kind of pieced it together, with Cordero Patterson and a couple of other pieces they had there. And a lot of people liked the other running back that the Falcons had, the rookie that the Falcons had. And he was a good kid. Could not remember his his name, but his name is Algiers, I think it is. I don't want to be wrong, so I'm going to check this out. And that is Tyler Algier. He was a rookie last year, and then he split reps with Caleb Huntley as well. So I think Atlanta's going to a more of a control type offense, so they don't have to put their their quarterback in a lot of trouble. Desmond Ritter's a good kid, but I don't think Desmond Ritter is going to be a guy that is going. He's going to be a guy that's going to put you out. He's going to throw for 300 yards, and I could be wrong, but the Falcons have an abundance of weapons, which they're going to be able to play a lot of play action. Between Kyle Pitts and the guy whom I really liked last year. He was one of the top wideouts in the country. I'm a Notre Dame fan, and I saw Drake London a lot. So he had 17 receptions, I think, against us, and he was a beast. And the Falcons actually got him the ball a lot more than they did Kyle Pitts. So hopefully, as much as I love Tommy Tremble, hopefully the Falcons decide they want to part ways with Kyle Pitts. But let's move on. I think the Falcons win this game by a field goal. As much as I don't want to say that, seems like every time the Carolina Panthers have a good team, the Falcons find a way to muster up a win in their building. So I have to give have our boys opening the season with a loss. Let's move on to week 2. You got the Saints. Much like the Falcons, we always play each other tight. But recently, since the reins have been turned over by Drew Brees, it's been a carousel of quarterbacks for the Saints. From Jameis Winston, of course, to whom is with us now. Andy Dalton was, of course, the starter for the majority of last year, and you just had a carousel of quarterbacks with the Saints, and with the addition of now Derek Carr winning the Saints winning the Derek Carr sweepstakes, and you've got the emergence of some really phenomenal playmakers at the wideout position. Everybody's talking about Michael Thomas coming back. I'm not sure there's going to be any kind of. I'm not saying there's going to be animosity there, but let's keep it perspective. Michael Thomas has not played a meaningful season in almost 3 years, and I know because I had him on my fantasy team all of those years. Chris Olave, I think Chris Olave has been just an insane addition to this football team. I don't know if there's anything else on this roster that scares me with the Saints, but the Saints still have a scary defense. This is, with the addition, especially of Isaiah Foskey, to go with Cameron Jordan, this is not a defense to slouch at. So, I think the NFC South, for the most part, other than, maybe the Buccaneers, but I don't think the Buccaneers have a bad defense. I just think their defense is not on the same depth, level as I think ours, the Falcons, and so forth. But I'll talk about them in a minute. But I think, as I said, I think the Saints have a very, very formidable defense. Like I said, you got Davenport still. You've got Cameron Jordan. And these are guys that are pretty daggum good. So, we can sit here and we can throw shade and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a good it's going to be pretty darn good football team, to say the least. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. I think when you look at it, Alvin Kamara, we keep forgetting about this guy. He's I don't want to say his best is behind him, but you're seeing so many things like last year. You see that he's starting to wear down, and it's not where it is anymore. So you're talking about offense that's kind of on the back end, if you will. But of course they've got Lattimore and Tyrann Mathieu, who's fit in exceptionally well. Marcus May, I think, is kind of trying to find his groove, if you will. He's really has had a tough time trying to get himself back together since the injuries when he was a Jet. So you know that secondary is still pretty good. I think the only weakness is when you start talking about that left cornerback position. So I think the Saints are going to be a tough go. But I think with Bryce Young and gosh, I hate the I keep wanting to say Dante Foreman, and so on and so forth. But I think Miles Sanders is going to be a good player, but I surely wish the Panthers would have kept Dante Foreman. But I still think the Carolina Panthers are going to pull a win at home and beat the Saints, probably by a field goal. It's going to be a close game all the way through, but I think what happens is Derek Carr, as much as I love the guy and kind of wish he was here, but I still think he's a turnover that waits to happen, and I think this defense is Coach Ichiro is going to have this defense ready, and I'm proud to say that I think it's going to be great. I think we win. Week 3 is going to be different. We actually have to fly to the Seattle Seahawks and face Geno Smith and company, and it's going to be a tough team. It's going to be a tough go. I mean, it's no getting around it. I think it's going to be a fun game, but I think more than anything else, Seattle wants to be able to run the football. They're going to want to run the football. I mean, as good as Geno Smith looked last year, I'm of the entire belief that Seattle's not going to push the whole notion to try and force the ball down at people's throats. They're not going to do that. Just looking at the depth chart, and I'm looking at, of course, they get DK Metcalf back healthy, and the biggest thing I'm looking at is Jackson Smith and Jigba. What does this do for this football team now that you're looking at trying to be a controlled type offense? And I honestly believe that's what Pete Carroll's going to want to do. He's going to want to have a controlled type offense. He's not going to go wide open. But he wanted to have a guy that's going to scare you. The other thing I saw was the whole Zach Charbonnet being drafted. Now, he's taken 2 running backs in the last 2 years. To me, Zach Charbonnet was an underappreciated guy in last year's draft class. But as we know, Mel Kiper and Todd McShay make those statements that they make about guys, running backs being overvalued in the draft. But they've got Kenneth Walker III, who was great in his rookie year, and Zach Charbonnet. The other thing is I think this defense is underrated, but at the same time, I look at it and I say to myself, okay, what can this team show that it didn't show last year? And the only thing I could come up with is that they have a consistent run stop. They can stop the run consistently, and I did not see that last year. They've got Jamal Adams and they got Quandre Diggs, and in that secondary at safety. So you've got 2 really, really good safeties, and I look at it from the standpoint when you can get a guy like a Quandre Diggs, which I did not understand why Detroit didn't hang on to him. You're talking about a guy who can make plays and is a very good playmaker, and then of course that goes with Devin Witherspoon and Tariq Wooten at the corners. Really, the only weakness you can look at and point to with the Seattle Seahawks is the linebackers. The edges are okay. The middle is pretty good. But if I had to select and pick whether the Panthers were going to come out and win this football game based on our ability to pass protect and run with the ball, that's another thing Seattle has great. Is they're great with pass protection. It's going to be very interesting to see if Coach Ichiro's 3-4 can beat what the Seattle Seahawks 2 stud tackles. And I think if you deploy the combination of DJ Johnson and Amari Bonner along with of course Brian Burns and Frankie Louvu and possibly Jeremy Chin, which we're hearing great things about Jeremy Chin. Coach Ichiro is definitely trying to hide what he's going to do with Jeremy Chin. I think he's the guy. What's crazy is is he's on contract year, and I surely hope that he unveils him to the point, unleashes him like he should, and it's going to be great to watch. But I think the Panthers, I think what happened with the Seahawks last year is what's going to happen with us this year. We're going to sneak up on everybody, and I think we're going to have a great season, and it's going to put us at 2. I think this win against Seattle is going to put us at 2-1. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, how can you say the Panthers will beat Seattle in their building, but they won't beat Atlanta in their building? It's just part of our history. We can't beat the Falcons in Atlanta. We just can't. I don't know what it is. We just can't beat them. But we can beat other teams in their building. But anyway, moving on. That takes us to 2-1. Let's look at the Minnesota Vikings. They will be coming to town. Now, last time we played them, we had a heartbreaker. And Adam Thielen will be getting a reunion, a place that he played for most of his career, if not all of it. But we will see a insane. We will be seeing an insane entourage of receivers, and I'm just keeping it honest. That is the only word for it. I mean, this football team is loaded at the receiver position, and I think honestly, when you sit and you look at how great this offense is. I mean, even with Kirk Cousins, and I think Kirk Cousins gets the short end of the stick. He's really, really good when he's really, really good, but when he's really, really bad, yeah, you know the deal. He's really, really bad. But you could say that about a lot of guys. But let's look at what this team has. Let's go down and really check out what the Minnesota Vikings have. Of course, they have Kirk Cousins, and then there's Dalvin Cook, who's also been mentioned in some trade talk. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Now, don't get me wrong, Alexander Mattison is a home run threat. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But Dalvin Cook is also a home run guy, but at the same time, he's a guy that is, he's been in the league since 2017. He's 27 years old. And he'll be 28 when the season starts. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, he's not on the other side of 30. Yeah, but he's had some nagging injuries the last couple of years. So we have to kind of look out for that. And, of course, the guy who was in the MVP talk, Justin Jefferson. I'm excited to see this. I don't know what you guys are, but I'm excited to see him and our boy J.C. Horn lock horns. It would not surprise me if the Vikings are so intimidated by J.C. Horn that they flip-flop him around and say, no, you're not going to get locked up with this guy. I'm just saying. Then there's the rookie Jordan Addison out of USC. I know what this guy can do. And KJ Osborne is a silent monster. It just seemed like last year, even between Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, this guy was able to make some of the big. He even made a big catch against us. It was last year or 2 years ago. Let's look. This guy had 60 receptions last year for 650 and 5 scores. But the thing about it is, he reminds me a lot of when we had Musa Muhammad in the older days. He would be out there just making just regular catches, first down receptions and so on and so forth, just making plays. So, but as far as the offense, that's really where you're at. You're looking at their offense. But then you go to the defensive side, they don't have much of a pass rush, which is really kind of out there. And I made a mistake earlier. Marcus Davenport is no longer a Saint. He is a Minnesota Viking now. I'm sorry. That was my mistake. Now, Davenport is now a Sam inside linebacker. They run the 3-4 as well. The problem they have last year is they did not have guys that could get a pass rush. Now you've got Andrew Booth Jr. and Byron Murphy, as you guys know from Seattle, in Minnesota now. And of course you got Harrison Smith, Notre Dame guy, that's back there. He's up there in age. He's an ageless wonder, but he's still doing his thing. He's at 34 years old. He's got the same birthday as mine, February 2nd. Good job, buddy. Keep up the good work, but you're on the wrong team. Yeah. But I honestly think Bryce Young gives us the edge here. As much as I like Kirk Cousins and I think Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are going to do their thing and possibly Dalvin Cook, I think I think what keeps us from losing this game is going to be the Minnesota's inability to say, okay, Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison need to be the workhorses here. I think that's what's going to cost us, because I don't think they're going to say, okay, we're going to just throw the ball 40 times and hope that J.C. Horn doesn't pick us off, or Von Bell doesn't pick us off, or Jeremy Chin doesn't make a play, or even Brian Burns doesn't make a play. You know, and Kirk Cousins is prone to turning the ball over, whether it's fumbles or interceptions. And I believe with this 3-4 system and our athletes all over the field, Amari Barno, these guys are going to make it hard for Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins to score points. So with that said, I think the Panthers go to 3-1. Which brings us to the Detroit rematch at Ford Field. Now, let us look here at the Detroit Lions. We have Jared Goff and the Jameer. This is the one that if I do a video, about the most head-scratching picks, it's gonna be the Jameer Gibbs one. Jameer Gibbs was not on Bijan Robinson's level by any stretch of the imagination, which is perplexing why this pick was even made. So with that being said, let's move forward and talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown, which would be an exciting move to watch, him going up against J.C. Horn. That won't happen because he'll be in the slot. You've got Marvin Jones, who's back with the Detroit Lions after a stint with the Jaguars. It's going to be interesting to see now how the Lions move with Jameson Williams, of course, being suspended by the league for obvious reasons. I don't want to go into it. So I'm not sure if it's going to be Josh Reynolds or Khalid Raymond. Khalid Raymond was a guy that I enjoyed. I thought he played exceptionally well. Jared Goff is done a very good job of spinning the ball around, spreading around to other players. He had 47 receptions for 616, Khalid Raymond, that is. And it was impressive watching this team make its run and do what it does and does so well. I was thoroughly impressed with them, and I think for the most part, this is going to be a very good offensive-minded team. The question is what are they going to do defensively? Because, of course, you've got Romeo Okwara, and you've got, of course, Aiden Hutchinson, who, in my opinion, was one of the top rookies last year. He played great. You've got Cameron Sutton and Emmanuel Mosley, whom I'm looking at how this team is still not overly constructed. They've got pass rushers, but they don't have anything on the back end. And that concerns me. Looking at this, I think the Carolina Panthers are going to be able to, with Bryce Young being patient and doing what he does, with that eye manipulation that he has, even though he's a rookie, I think they're going to be able to do a lot of things. I think Jonathan Mingo could have a big game. I definitely think Adam Thielen could have a big game. So I'm taking the Panthers by a few, because I think also Jared Goff is also capable of turning the ball over. So I think the Panthers go to 4-1. And we come up on the Dolphins. We got to go to South Beach. And for the record, I think Detroit's going to have a great season. I think they're not a ways away from being that elite team. But I think we get them. Of course, we know what we're dealing with. We got Tua Tagovailoa. Mike White is the backup this year. So I think if anything happens to him this year, they're in great hands, because Mike White is a really, really accomplished quarterback, considering he's only had a handful of starts. But as we said, they got a ton of speed on this team. Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and even Cedric Wilson. They've just got speed on top of speed on top of speed, which is why I think this team is going to be a problem. We can look at so many different areas where the Dolphins just have a ton of speed. Xavier Howard is slowly but surely becoming, I don't want to say it like this, but he's becoming old. He'll be 30 years old as soon as the season starts. And then you've got Jalen Ramsey, who went over in that big deal from the Rams, and you've got Javon Holland and Deshaun Elliott. These are guys they got a very strong secondary. And then you've got Jalen Phillips and Raekwon Davis. You're talking about some really good players up front. And, Christian Wilkins has got to come out. And this is a guy that is, here he is. He's coming into his 4th season. This is a contract year for him. So, this is a guy that's got to come in. He's got to do his thing. So, this team is strong. This team is going to be very strong. And for that reason, looking at their run defense and looking at the back end, and then look at all the speed that this team has on the outside and so on and so forth. I'm not enjoying saying this, people, but I've got to say that I think we're overmatched in this matchup, and I think we're going to have to take the W here. I don't think we come out of South Beach with a win, and I think we end up, taking this one on the chin, and we fall to 4-2. And then we come, and it'll be at the perfect time we get the bye, and roll into the matchup that is considered a top 10 matchup. It's going to be at 1 o'clock, and it's going to be CJ versus Bryce versus CJ. And it gets to prove a point that I've been saying, that I don't think CJ Stroud is a bust, and I'm going to stand by that. He's going to be a great player. Hopefully not as good as Bryce, but I had a feeling he would be anyway. Looking over here at the Houston Texans, I think they're a team that they've got a lot of work to do, which was baffling. Why I understand why they did it. DeMeco Ryans wants to get his quarterback and at the same time get his cornerstone, which in my opinion, this is my opinion, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to disagree with what I say, but Will Anderson, in my opinion, ain't the guy that you trade what you gave up for this guy. You don't, because there was a lot of pieces you could have gotten at number 12. You could have just traded up a few spots and gotten, let's do this. Let's do this. You could have traded up a few spots and gotten, let's see. Y'all bear with me just a second. I don't want to say anything wrong. I've already said one thing wrong tonight, but I don't want to make that a habit. What makes our platform so cool is we give you precise information and correct information. Effectively correct information. You could have traded back, and see, that's what made that 12th pick by the Lions just a head scratcher. You could have traded back to number 7 and got let's see. You could have gotten Wilson out of Texas Tech, the 6'5", 271-pound beast out of Texas Tech, and that would have been your guy. And see, you could have traded a 3rd pick, moved up, and then you could have gotten somebody like an Isaiah Foskey, or, to me, there were 2 guys in this draft at end that I really, really loved. I really loved these guys, and that would have been not Brian Breesy. No, that's not who I wanted. Let's see. That was the other thing. Joey Porter falling in the 2nd round would have just been perfect for the Texans, because they don't have a great cornerback. And then you could have had another corner, and then you could have gotten another. You could have traded back in the 2nd round and got possibly Isaiah Foskey, B.J. Ujulari, and Keon White. See, I was sitting there watching when the Patriots picked this guy, and I was like, really? Then it's just that the rich keep getting richer with New England. Now, New England ain't won a championship since Brady's been gone. But anyway, back to that point. Looking over here at Houston and looking at the lack. I mean, Will Anderson's going to be tough to block, and of course, we're looking at Christian Kirksey, who was very good in his heyday, along with Denzel Perryman. But you're talking about a guy who will be 31 before the end of the season, and then you've got Christian Kirksey. You got initially, in essence, you've got 2 guys that will be 30, 31, and then you look at the right defensive end with Jerry Hughes, who's about to be 35 before the season starts. You're talking about a bunch of older players that are going to be on. Now, I'm not saying D'Amico Ryans can't get these guys to play at a Pro Bowl level, but let's look at let's keep it in perspective. You've got young and old. It's just like you have Steven Nelson, here at the one cornerback position, and then you have Derek Stingley at the other. You got one guy that's 21 years old, and you've got one guy that's pushing 30, and then you've got Jimmy Ward, a guy who comes over from the 49ers, but he's 31. He'll be 32 when the season starts. So you've got a mixture. Do I think D'Amico Ryans is going to have a tough defense? I think so. John Mechie is going to have a big season. Of course, they brought over Robert Woods and Nico Collins. Do I think C.J. Stroud can make it work? Of course, because he's got Damian Pierce, who had a phenomenal, just out of nowhere rookie season. But ultimately, I think being that this is a team that is not ready to go and they're playing in Bank of America Stadium, I think they've got a few more pieces to get, and I think Carolina has a lot of pieces on that defense, and C.J. Stroud seeing a 3-4 is going to be kind of tough. So I think I'm going to give the edge to us, naturally, and that's going to take us to 5-1 and give us a 5-2, give us a win off the bye, and next week get ready to go and visit the Indianapolis Colts. And looking here, of course, they've got Gardner Minshew slated as the starter. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this. If Gardner Minshew drives these guys inside the 10-yard line, ain't no way on God's green earth we are not seeing Anthony Richardson. I'm telling you, this guy's not going to stay on this. He's not going to stay on the bench the entire season. He just is not. He is not going to stay on the sidelines this entire season. It's just not going to happen. And one of the surprises I'm looking at right now, and just hit me. Okay, they have Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss, of course, but they also signed Isaiah McKenzie in free agency, which is saying a lot that Bills actually did not value him, which I can understand why. Isaiah McKenzie had a ton of bad drops. It really did. But also did Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman. These guys had some bad drops as well. But Frank Reich will be revisiting his old team, and I'm seeing a lot of things that, these guys have a good roster, but it's not a roster that scares me. Offensively they could, but I don't know if Gardner Minshew is going to be able to, expose that. I think what's going to be scary is if they can drive us inside, they can drive our defense inside, because Anthony Richardson, until he's ready to be a quarterback, the type of quarterback they want, he's a nightmare because he's coming. Do you have enough size, strength, and speed to stop him? So, but I still think that this is going to be another home win for the Panthers. We go to 6-2, and that brings up Week 10. We go to Soldier Field. This is going to be in November, which I failed to mention if these games were indoors and outdoors. I'm sorry. But I can go back. Colts, Texans are indoors. Dolphins, of course, outside. Detroit game's indoors. Minnesota game is that indoors or outdoors? No, that's outdoors. We're home. We're at Lumen Field. Of course, I think that is an indoor stadium. I think so. Of course, Bank of America and Mercedes-Benz is an outdoor stadium. So, let's move on to the Bears. That will be a Thursday night game, and it's going to be cold. And it's in Soldier Field. Thursday night games are the tricky ones, ladies and gentlemen. They are. They are very, very tricky. And then Justin Fields is like the biggest joker on the planet. He's not even the ace in the hole. He's like the spade in a game of spades. This guy, if he's good, we're in trouble. If he's bad, we have nothing to worry about. But then there's also DJ Moore. The revenge game, if you would say. Then there's Deontay Foreman. I totally forgot about that when he was here. And then it's the guys of Notre Dame, the heroes of Notre Dame, Chase Claypool and Cole Kmet. We're seeing guys that I'm familiar with all over the place. But here's the other thing, is the defense is not a nightmare. They weren't horrible last year. They just could not get stops when they needed them. I think that was the biggest problem with the Bears last year, and it made Justin Fields have to do so much. I think he got too much of the flack, and the offense got too much of the flack because the defense was okay. They did make some stops, and I think the thing was the other team knew that the offense was just so reserved that they didn't want to take a lot of risks. That defense was not nearly as bad. But I am going to go with the boys in white that day. I think we win this game on Thursday night. Now, I will say this. In my mind, I'm thinking Bears because it's Thursday night. But I feel like the Panthers on talent can win this game. So I feel like we're going to go to 7-2 with them Cowboys coming up in our building. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, everybody is waiting on the Dallas Cowboys to fold. Me personally, they do one day. They can't keep losing. Just like everybody thought the Boston Red Sox was going to keep losing or the Chicago Cubs were going to start losing. You're just going to keep losing. Now, I will say this. Does Tony Pollard scare me running the ball every down? No. A lot of people say, he's scary because he's touching the ball more. Well, the thing is, there's a difference between a Tony Pollard that's coming in running against a more worn down defense than just coming off the bench and he's fresh and everybody's trying to catch their breath. Brandon Cooks is now a Cowboy with Michael Gallup. But I'm sitting here looking at this, and of course they got Jake Ferguson. I think he's a great addition. I thought he was a major pickup for the Cowboys last season. And, for him to be here, I remember him when he was Wisconsin, I think it was. No, it was Mississippi State. No, excuse me. No, it was Wisconsin. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was right. So you're talking about a guy who was a primary target as a tight end. He's 6'5", 244. When you talk about the speed of the Cowboys receivers and the abilities, you really want to see if this is going to be a running type offense or a passing type offense. But you look at your guys that, are on the front line, and you're looking at you got Terrence Steele, excuse me. He's a young guy, and then you've got, I can't believe I'm saying this, but you're talking about Zach Martin. This is a guy that's been the man for the longest time. I can't believe he's been in the league this long. One of the highest paid guards. Here he is, 32. But you got to look here, and you got to look at the mix that they have. The Cowboys want to run the football, but I think losing Zeke Elliott, which I've heard there are rumblings that he might come back, but I'm seeing they've got 4 running backs on the roster. I don't see any reason why they go that route. But then you're looking at the defense. And this makes a lot of sense because, as I said, you've got Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence here. And the biggest problem I see here, in which I did not know this, another surprise here, Stephon Gilmore is now a Dallas Cowboy. And along with Trayvon Diggs, this does not bode well in this game. So, with that being said, I think the Cowboys do have a little bit more, and I think they beat us in our building, and it's not going to be a blowout. I think they get us, and we fall to 7-3. So this will be a learning experience for us, and it'll be a good learning experience. So I think Dak has a pretty good game, but I think the defense has a better game. Just have to grow from it, and that's what I think what we will do. It'll be a growing process, but I still think the Panthers are going to make their noise, and it's going to be in the playoffs like many of the past seasons the Panthers have. They've made their noise, and they've gone to the Super Bowl, but we're due. This is our season. You're going to hear me say this. This is our season. Let's go to Tennessee. Let us go to nice old Nashville and see what we got coming up here. As you guys know, this is going to be a reunion of possibly the Carolina Panthers and Malik Willis and Will Levis. Then this is what's weird to me is they've got 2 quarterbacks from the past 2 drafts. Malik Willis was projected to be a number 1, possibly top 10 pick last year, and he slid all the way down to the 3rd. And the rumor was that the Carolina Panthers wanted to trade back into the third round to get him, but then Tennessee snatched him up, and that it led us to where we're with Matt Corral, and I'm hearing rumblings that we're currently searching for a home for him, and that's ironic because the Tennessee Titans are rumored to be shopping Derrick Henry and starting a possible rebuild here. But you've got Ryan Tannehill, who's turnover prone as well. Not very much sticks out with me. Now, they've got a very imposing offensive line. They definitely have always had that since they've had Derrick Henry. But outside of that, you really don't have much on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not really overly impressed with a lot that they have. Their defense has been a problem. And, you've got Caleb Farley, a guy who was drafted number 1 in 2021, has yet to make any kind of impact. I'm sitting here looking at this. The guy's got just crazy ability. He had crazy ability when he came in. Yet he just hadn't been able to put it together. And I know that was a lot of the talk when they first drafted him. But I'm looking at all in all between Derrick Henry. I think our defense is going to be good enough to keep him stout. And Ryan Tannehill has a notion for trying to do too much. Treylon Burks is a good player, but I don't see anything else wide receiver-wise that scares me or sticks out. So I think this is going to be a pretty easy win. We go to 8-3. And, 8-3. That's all I can say. Then we go to Week 13, which is December 3rd, 1 o'clock game. We got Tampa Bay Buccaneers, our rival. Keep in mind we are 1-1 in the division. More than likely we're going to be in first place. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are just, I don't want to say a mess, but, that Tom Brady era was just, I would say it was a disappointment to a lot of Tampa fans because they felt like they wanted multiple rings and they felt like they could, which they did. They did have it, but I think a lot of it had to do with the Antonio Brown fiasco. I think that really took a lot of wind out of their sail, but they still have an impressive roster of receivers, from Mike Evans to Chris Godwin and Russell Gage, Trey Palmer, whom I was like, I was actually sitting there when they took Trey Palmer. I was like, what are they fixing to do? They took this guy in the 6th round. This guy was a 4th or 5th round grade. He's 6'1" and he runs like a cat. I'm talking about this cat can run. And you add that already to Mike Evans, Russell Gage, and Chris Godwin, that's a lot of speed. But then again, you got Baker Mayfield, Kyle Trask. Of course, you got the usual suspects on defense: Vita Vea, Levante David, Antonio Winfield, and Carlton Davis. Shaq Barrett as well. But there was some, holes exposed in that defense, and I think honestly, this is going to be a good game. But I think we're going to possibly be in a dogfight. But since it's in Tampa Bay's building, I'm going to give the edge to them. I think we lose this game and fall to 8-4. I think we cause Baker and make mistakes, he or Kyle Trask, but I think ultimately their defense is going to make us make mistakes as well. And we find ourselves back against the New Orleans Saints. This time it's in Caesars Superdome. I truly believe that we can pull a sweep. We've swept the Saints before. I think we can pull a sweep, much like the other time. The crowd is a factor, but I think it won't be by much that we win this game because I think Deontay Foreman is a much more powerful back to deal with than one Miles Sanders, which is why I was totally for re-signing this guy. But I think they beat us in this one, because it's in their building and they play exceptionally well. They play supernaturally when they do it. Week 15 Falcons. That's a to be determined game. I think we win this one. I don't think there's no question we win this one. I think we're catching our stride. We win this one, and we go to, what is it, 10-4. 10-4, yeah. We go to 10-4, and no, excuse me, 9-5. Excuse me. We go to 9-5. We're going to go on a 2-game losing streak. I think between the back-to-back losses at Tampa and at New Orleans, I think we We fall to 9-5, and then the Falcons come to us for Week 15, and we win that game and go to no, it's 8-5. I'm sorry. Then we go to 9 and is it? Yeah, 9 to we go 9-5, and then we have to go to Green Bay comes to us, so. I think that Green Bay, you got the changing of the guards, you got Jordan Love, but you still have the usual suspects in Aaron Jones. But I just think Green Bay's defense has just been average for too long, and I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm just saying the average is going to be great, not bad, but I think it's all going to depend where we beat Green Bay. It's going to be whether or not we can contain Aaron Jones and the other big guy from Boston College. A.J. Dillon. Yeah, if we can contain these two guys, I think that bodes well for us. But, as I said, you got the usual suspects on defense for these guys. And they're decent, but I don't think they're great. So I think Green Bay's going to fall back a little bit. I don't think they're going to be able to handle us in that capacity. So I think we go to 10-5 after this win. And then we have to go to Jacksonville in Week 17. That's going to be New Year's Eve. And as a matter of fact, the Packers game is Christmas Eve. So you got New Year's Eve, and we got the Jaguars. And I think this is going to be a game where I think Jacksonville shows it's ready for the playoffs. And I think you've got to look at where Trevor Lawrence is as a player. You're going to have Calvin Ridley next year to choose from, along with Zay Jones and Christian Kirk, and as well as Evan Ingram. I thought for the most part that this team was they should have beaten Kansas City, last year. They should have. And I'm going to say right now that the worst move they could have made, and people are going to disagree with me, and I don't care, because here's the problem. This guy's not an impact player. Trayvon Walker. You don't take a non-impact player at number 1. You don't do that. You take Aiden Hutchinson or Kayvon Thibodeau. Period. But I say that there's a lot of guys out there that are very, very, Chasen is one of those guys. When he comes in, he causes havoc. More havoc than Trayvon Walker does. So, I mean, that's why I don't understand you take him number 1. They're going to kick themselves for that one, but I'm glad they didn't. And you got guys like Brandon Sheriff that are very good. And, getting these guys on the offensive line, their offensive line is going to be pretty good. They're going to be able to run the football with Travis Etienne. We're going to have to be able to slow that down. But those receivers are that receiving core, and Trevor Lawrence being able to just sit back there and cherry pick who he wants to go to is just going to be, it's going to be tough because we have a lack thereof. But with Rashawn Jenkins on the defensive side and Andre Sisco, who had a breakout season last year, he was just, in that Kansas City game, he was the man. I'm going to say that we're going to fall in Duval County, as they refer to it. I think we fall to 10-6, and with the finale of the Tampa Bay Buccaneer game looming over our head in Charlotte. And I think we finished the season 11-6. So there we are, and we win the division as well. And I think we possibly could when we definitely host a playoff game. But I think we honestly could excuse me, we could possibly make it to the NFC title game. But I think we're due for the Super Bowl, people. So you hear that first. We possibly could make the Super Bowl. So if I was a betting man, I'd bet NFC title game. I don't think Bryce Young's going to be ready for the Super Bowl, but I think ultimately we're going to compete, and we're going to compete hard. But let me know what you guys think about our choices here. As you know, we've got a poll up on our Facebook page. Going to see if I can't upload it to my Instagram. And let me know what you think over there. What you think about how many wins the 2023 Carolina Panthers are going to achieve this year. Like I said, that's going to do it for us here. Check us out over at our Facebook page. And, of course, if you new here, don't forget to subscribe. If you just chimed in, please be sure to like or dislike the video. Don't forget to check me out over at Mr. Cee Low on my Instagram page so you can see what other shows that I will be involved in. I'm going to be starting up a couple of new shows in a couple of weeks. And if you want to give some feedback on it, check out my reels and so on and so forth so you can see what I am currently up to and what my thought process and feelings on certain things. But until next time, this is Mr. Cee Low. Keep prowling the airways and growling out. Keep pounding.